held the book beneath my coat at pains to hide the thing from sight in such a place. Hurrying through the ancient harbour lanes with oft-turning head and nervous pace. Dull, furtive windows in old tottering brick peered at me oddly as I hastened by, thinking what they sheltered. I grew sick for a redeeming glimpse of clean blue sky. No one had seen me take the thing, but still a blank laugh echoed in my whirling head, and I could guess what nighted worlds of ill lurked in that volume I had coveted. The way grew strange, the walls alike and madding, and far behind me unseen feet were padding.
Shall we play a game?
Why, yes, I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining us. Gonna have another great show today. And remember, this is live talk radio, live geek talk radio. So you can call in and participate if you would like. You can call in at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. Yes, it was a replay last week, unexpectedly. We've got more details on that. It was supposed to be the Mars or Bust show, where we were going to talk about the SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch and the recreation of the introduction from the heavy metal movie from 1981 with a convertible in space. But that has been postponed. We will be doing that probably in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be a great show with my friend David Beatty, who is the Mega Wars game developer, but he's also worked on some software that SpaceX uses. So that should be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. To do some quick housekeeping notes here, and then we'll introduce my guest today. And the topic today is going to be twofold. I've got a fantasy author on who's got 2 books published, and so we're going to get into the essence of what are his books about, and what was it like to publish, and what's coming next. But we're also my guest and I both have a mutual appreciation of the Cthulhu mythos, H.P. Lovecraft, which H.P. Lovecraft actually referred his stuff as the Arkham cycle. He didn't call it the Cthulhu mythos. So it's going to be sort of half fantasy author and then half H.P. Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos. We're going to have Lovecraft trivia and other stuff. So it's going to be a great show today. Last week's show, again, was a replay of the Polyhero Dice and D&D News show. You can go check that out. It's out there in the podcast version on the website at shaneplays.com and all that. If you're listening live, then, well, let me back up. If you're listening delayed by podcast or on Krypton Radio, then the show notes for today's show will be up at shaneplays.com right now. So once I put everything up for the podcast and the Krypton Radio show, then you can see the show notes for news items and links that we discussed today. And that does remind me to say that this is first and foremost a live Geek Talk radio show. It's just like politics or, hey, can I fix my car? What do I do with my plants? Religious talk radio, whatever, but it's Geek Talk radio. So again, feel free to call in at 501-823-0965 should the mood strike you. But we do go out a few days later as a podcast. And that goes out on the blog at shaneplays.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and more, including YouTube. So we're getting more and more people starting to find the show on YouTube. So that's cool. And then last, but never least, Shane Plays is also carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. We're replayed a week delayed on Saturdays and Mondays on Krypton Radio, kryptonradio.com. Okay, so before I introduce my guests, the bit that you heard right before the show opened was a clip from Fungi from Yuggoth, which is a sequence of 36 sonnets that was written by H.P. Lovecraft, who is sort of a horror writer, survival horror, cosmic horror, however you want to, weird fiction, I believe he referred to it himself. And that was a recording that was done by John Author Arthur with music by Mike Olson. I encourage you to go out and get a copy of that. I've known about it for years, and it's just really good stuff. Did you, Jeremy, this is your big introduction. This is Jeremy Morphis, who is my guest today. He's a fantasy author, but also a fellow Lovecraft fan. Did you recognize that clip I played?
I did not.
You did not? Okay. Yeah. So sometimes it's weird to hear stuff read or, in that version. But yeah, the Fungi from Yuggoth is I don't know, it's just really cool. They just set all 36, sonnets to like an audiobook format or whatever. So
you want some trivia about Yuggoth?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I'll lay some on you then.
Do it. That's what you're here for.
All right. So H.P. Lovecraft originally pronounced it as Yuggoth.
Yuggoth.
Yeah, to where it almost rhymed with Pluto. Okay. And there's one of the stories, it's, I think, Shadow Out of Time.
Right.
That you hear Yuggoth, and he mentions that it sounds very close to Pluto. So that's how we know that's how
to pronounce it.
Yeah, how Lovecraft originally intended it.
One of the interesting things about Lovecraft, how do you pronounce it? Like I was like, what is it? R''Lyeth ETA. How do you say that? Right?
I pronounce it Riley.
Riley?
Because my 11-year-old daughter is named Riley.
Okay. Well, it could be, there's so many different ways. There's that incantation that you can use to summon Cthulhu or whatever that's very famous or whatever. Okay. So anyway, so that's Jeremy Morphis. He's a fantasy author. We'll talk about his books here in a little bit. Here, got a couple more notes here. I'm recording. Now, I don't know when it may be played next weekend, the weekend after, or it'll be soon, but I'm recording a Star Trek Continues rap party with two surprise cast members from Star Trek Continues. So if you're a Star Trek Continues fan, which was an amazingly excellent fan film series that basically did the fourth season of the original Star Trek original series, as if it would have continued for another season. Send me tweets at Shane Plays or email me at shane@shaneplays.com or leave a voice message on Shane Plays Facebook page, and I will pass those on to them during the rap party. So, and I've already been collecting some by social media, Twitter and stuff like that. But I want to hear from you so that I can let the Star Trek Continues cast hear from you. And then finally, Shane Plays sponsor Arkansas RPG Con. Again, I want to remind everyone the 2018 badge sales are now open. Vendor and sponsorship options are also open. Go to arpgcon.com for more info, or check them out on Arkansas RPG Con on Facebook. So, speaking of the Shane Plays voicemail, or that you could leave a voicemail message and all that, it's time for me to banter with Zach. So, Zach, we didn't get to banter last weekend.
That's right.
So before we do our bantering, we got to talk about something else. Mm-hmm. Okay. So last weekend you called me about an hour and a half before the show, 2 hours. And you're like, hey, the transmitter's down.
Yeah.
In Redfield.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I was kind of debating, whether to come in and do the show or not. And ultimately, because it sounded like it might come up, but it wasn't a guarantee. Mm-hmm. And last Saturday was kind of crazy for me, outside of the show a little bit. I just decided that if the transmitter came back up in time, replay a show.
Yeah.
If not, just whatever. And I think you said you were just replay the show anyway so the internet, because people can listen online. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're listening live on 96.5 FM, The Answer, in the local area. Also remember, you can always listen live anywhere in the world via the online stream at 96.5 FMTheAnswer.com. So the transmitter was down, and it was like generator had run out of power, and it was all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, so I gambled, rolled the dice, and said I'm not going to come in. And then it did come up right before showtime, mm-hmm. right? So, okay. So the plot thickens, all right? So I realized that right before you called me and told me that the transmitter was down, that I had received a voice message on my Facebook page. So can you play that real quick? Play that again. What the heck is that? Wow. Does that, Jeremy, what would you, if you had to guess, what is that?
I would say you're trapped in the video game somewhere.
Yeah, something. So that sounds like, it's like one of those voice disguisers. Something. Well, okay. So I hired the Mobley Detective Agency, and they have done some software algorithms on this, and this is what was revealed. Play that. What is it? What does that sound like to you, Jeremy?
It could be my mother-in-law snoring.
That could be your mother-in-law snoring. Yeah. To me, it sounds like, what does it sound like to you, Zach?
Someone's angry.
Yeah, but I mean, what? It sounds like a growling dog to me. Play that again. You hear that? Does that not sound like a dog?
It does sound yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So to me, that sounds like a growling dog. So here's the thing. If you're new to the show, all right, we have this thing where we have a news team, right? And the head of the news team is Sal. And Sal, I mean, he wears the fedora, he chomps the cigar, all that. And they work and they get the news. Well, his grandmother and her dog Muffin, if I don't banter with Zach, or if they don't like the banter that I have with Zach, I get nasty emails. So it sounds like this is escalating a little bit because the transmitter went down. And what was it? Play that again. The voicemail I got right before the transmitter went down. Yeah. And then play the corrected version. I mean, folks, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that we might have an escalation with Muffin on I don't know. I mean that's the theory that the Mobley the detective agency is in, but we don't know for sure. I'm not making any accusations, but I'm just saying the banter has to be good, Zach. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's banter for the love of the show. We got to stay on air. I mean, the whole station could go down. This is getting serious. Play that again. Play the corrected version again. I don't know. That sounds like a growling dog to me. What do you? Yeah. Okay.
It could be without the banter if my mother-in-law fell asleep, though.
It could be.
Don't rule that out.
She can snore. All right. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. You're innocent until proven guilty. But let's banter, Zach, so that we don't. So that Sal's grandmother and her dog Muffin will be happy. And Muffin, if that wasn't you, I'm not accusing you. I love you, Muffin. Just we want to make you happy. All right, Zach, have you seen Black Panther yet?
I'm going tomorrow.
So the estimates are off the chart. I mean, it made great money Thursday night.
Yeah.
And they were saying, hey, it's going to make, I think they were saying like 160 million this weekend. And now they're already revising that up to like 180 or 190 million.
Okay.
So this is going to be a big movie. And, as we've talked about several times on the show, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
It looks, even if it wasn't a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, it looks really good. I'm liking everything I see about it. So, Jeremy, what do you think? Are you jazzed for this movie?
Oh yeah, my wife and I and my sister, we are going to go tomorrow to make sure that Marvel stays in business and has all the money in the world.
Yeah, and this is the last movie before Avengers Infinity War, which is the culmination of 10 years of movie planning. So it's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I know, isn't that crazy? I mean, a decade ago, we would have never thought this was possible.
Right, and here it comes. Yeah, I'm excited. One, because I like the Marvel movies. But two, Infinity War is going to be, like I said, as far as I know, there's never been another movie like it, at least in Western cinema, where they had a plan 10 years ago to lead up to everything's leading to this movie. So pretty sweet.
When are you going to see it?
I would go see it this weekend.
Yeah.
However, it's sort of combination Valentine's Day and anniversary weekend for the lovely Sheila and I. And she'd probably go see it with me, but it probably wouldn't be her first choice. So I will go see it though.
Okay.
I will go see it. Did you hear? I think it was in Atlanta. I think it was like opening night. And all these people went to see Black Panther, and the theater accidentally played the new 50 Shades movie.
What?
Oh yeah, go look that up. Yeah, the tweets from that are comedy gold.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it ranges from people being amused because they realize it's a mistake.
Wow.
To, I mean, some people are like genuinely like enraged. So yeah.
To tell you the truth, I can't blame them.
Yeah.
I would
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean, not only is it an interesting movie, but socially, there's a lot tied up in this movie
That's
too,
right?
Yeah. So yeah, people were seeing it, as disrespect or whatever. But I think it's going to be a fantastic movie,
I agree.
and I'm really looking forward to it. So now I will say, Zach, that I've made no secret that I'm not really against it, but I'm not really excited for the Solo movie because there's some characters I don't want to know everything about. I think they work better when you don't know everything about their past. But the Solo trailer was great, really good. What did you think of the Solo trailer?
Like I said, I told you before, movie trailers really don't do much for me. I'm just if I know a character and I love them, I just want to go see the film. The trailers, I just really don't. It doesn't matter.
It just doesn't do it for you?
Nope.
Did you hear the same voicemail I heard with that dog growling?
Well, that was probably my dog after the Patriots lost the Super Bowl.
Oh, dang.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so oh, okay.
That could have been mine.
Okay, could have been. So were you wounded? Were you hurt?
I just turned off the lights and basically sat in darkness.
Cried?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm. Then went to bed.
Yeah, I got to say, and I'm not even a football guy, you know that. I mean, they got slam dunks and they had pop flies and all that good stuff, but it was a good game.
It was.
It was a good game. And so there you go.
Yep.
So I don't know. I didn't watch this halftime show. I went out and cleaned the litter box when the halftime show was on. So
the halftime show was pretty good. It was fine. Yeah.
All right. I heard some people were glad that Timberlake gave a little love to Prince, and I heard other people thought he shouldn't have done that. So I don't know.
I thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine.
People always want to complain.
All right. What about you, Jeremy? Are you a football guy?
I am not a sports guy at all.
Me neither. Yeah, sports ball, go team.
I only like to find out which teams that my family and friends are rooting against, and then to cheer for that team so that they win. I like to see people's spirits get crushed.
Yeah, me too.
So it's a little disappointing when the Patriots lost, even though they're horrible. But they are like the Ric Flair of football. They are always in the championship match. They are big cheaters, and when they win, it breaks my family's hearts, and
they also strut around and go woo like Ric Flair.
They absolutely should.
Yes. Absolutely. How's Tom Brady now?
He's 40.
40, and he was in there still doing pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, all right. I hope, Zach, we satisfied the banter quotient because I'm starting to sweat over here, man. It used to be funny, but man, this is crazy now. Oh, anyway, all right. Sal's grandmother and her dog Muffin, we love you both. I hope the email I get this week is that we suck less because that generally indicates that they're moderately happy with it. So, all right, speaking of Sal, let's turn on the microphone in the super secret newsroom and see what's going on. There you go, man. They're working hard on a Saturday. We'll do two really quick news items here because I want to leave plenty of time to talk with Jeremy about his stuff, and then we can work in some H.P. Lovecraft discussion as well. So, in honor of the fact that you're a fantasy author, Jeremy, I found a fantasy novel news item. Now, and this will be big for a lot of people. R.A. Salvatore, Bob Salvatore himself, is writing another Forgotten Realms Drizzt Do'Urden trilogy. That you may care, you may not. I don't know. But for people who are either D&D or there's a certain genre of fantasy that's based on Forgotten Realms or whatever, there's a lot of people that are big fans of this. And there's a book coming in September called Timeless by R.A. Salvatore. And it's going to kick off another trilogy, not only involving Drizzt Do'Urden, the famous two-sabered ranger dark elf, and his panther Guinevere, but also evidently his dad, and it's going to tell some backstory and Menzo Oberon's and all that kind of stuff. So do you ever read any of the Forgotten Realms stuff?
I didn't. I would have played D&D when I was a kid, but we were too poor. You had to get 20-sided dice.
Yeah.
A 20-sided dice, man, we couldn't afford that. We could barely afford the 6-sided dice.
You could barely afford a dice and a half, a side and a halfer.
So we had the two little cubes we could roll around. So so Drizzt, you were the first person I've ever heard actually pronounce that name. Oh, so I appreciate that.
I may have done it wrong.
I don't know. Idea.
Drizzt. I pronounce stuff wrong. Here's the thing. I'm always curious from a fantasy author standpoint or somebody, because I grew up on this kind of book. But I mean, I read other stuff too, but I was a big D&D guy, so I read a lot of these books. But, this kind of stuff is like, the McDonald's of fiction, right?
Yes.
So I wonder, as a fantasy author, how do you view that? It's like, are you like, that I probably wouldn't read that, or, and keep in mind that, any hate mail will go to Zach@salem.com. So you can say whatever you want.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the 8-second pause, so I can.
Yeah.
I can get bleeped out.
Yeah.
Zach, you can do that.
Yeah. You can do that.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. I think I've read a couple of Forgotten Realms books when I was a kid. It's not my style.
Right.
It is the McDonald's thing, McDonald's version of fantasy, I guess.
Right.
But it appeals to a lot of people.
And I mean, there's McDonald's everywhere. People
Absolutely.
like McDonald's. Right. It fits. There's sometimes, and I make this analogy a lot. Sometimes I want an amazing steak. Sometimes I just want to go get a Big Mac. So it just depends. What do I want right then? Right. What am I in the mood for?
I've never had a Big Mac.
Have you not?
I have never had a Big Mac.
Have you ever had a Quarter Pounder?
Quarter Pounder with cheese, man. It was my go-to.
That
order.
was your go-to?
And the breakfast. I like McDonald's breakfast.
Okay.
No problem there.
No, man, if you ever go to McDonald's at breakfast, they're packed.
I tell my daughters, what are those? Crap. What are the sandwiches they've got? They got
the Egg McMuffin.
Syrup, like mixed into the
I know
batter.
what you're talking about. Yeah.
The McGriddle. Oh my
McGriddle.
God. Those are the best sandwiches. The best breakfast sandwiches, hands down.
Plays your fiddle. It
Dude,
does it for you.
Does it ever.
Okay. All right. So there we go, people. Rejoice. There's more Drizzt Do'Urden coming. And the second news item is in honor of my game players in the audience, plus the fact that we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft and Call of Cthulhu. There's a Call of Cthulhu survival horror video game RPG coming. It's the official video game adaptation of Chaosium's pen and paper RPG, itself based on the H.P. Lovecraft. There's a lot of people out there, Jeremy. I know you said you never played D&D or anything, but there's a lot of people, their knowledge of Lovecraft came from the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, which it is now in its 7th version. And it has this great mechanic in it called sanity. And have you played it, or are you familiar with it? Or
I've not played it, but it was reminding me of another game. I can't remember the full name of it, but it was on the GameCube, I think, and it was called Sanity's Requiem.
Yeah,
and it had a sanity metric in it, and so the more like undead and horrors you experienced, the lower
lose sanity.
It went.
Yep.
And then the screen would start shifting to the left and to the right, and bugs would crawl on it. You'd get this blue screen of death that would come up.
That's very Lovecraftian, or as far as that's the very sanity mechanic from the Call of Cthulhu role playing game. Like Call of Cthulhu, the role playing game, is like the Lovecraft stories. You're not really meant to survive, or if you do survive, you're mentally damaged somehow.
You're on opium until your money runs out.
Right, exactly.
Then you're flinging yourself out a window.
Exactly. My favorite sanity check failure in Call of Cthulhu was some friends told me about. They were up on a skyscraper, their characters were, and like something like Great Cthulhu rose, and the dude took one look at it, pulled the pin on a grenade, shoved it in his mouth, and jumped off the skyscraper. So that's beautiful. Yeah, that's
heartwarming.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's so Cthulhu.
It really is.
But anyway, so if people want to play a video game adaptation of the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, it should be coming out sometime in 2018, and there'll be a PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC version. And if people go to rpgsite.net, and the last news item was courtesy Nerdist, but if you go to rpgsite.net, or if you go to the show notes, if you're listening to the podcast or the Krypton radio version, then you can check out a 5-minute gameplay trailer and kind of get an idea of what the game is like. So I think I might check that out. It looks pretty interesting. You do don't you play a little bit of video games? Where are you at on the gamer scale there?
Oh, I do. We've got a Switch. My beautiful wife Amy hunted for months and months and months to find a Switch, thinking that our daughters would love it because
you love it.
We had the Wii, right? And we used to play like Mario Party and stuff like that, and they were big into it, and it was a huge selling point. We all did that, and we got the Switch, and we got 1-2 Switch, and they played that once, and then said, meh. We're never going to play it again.
They met it?
They met it. Oh, my God. Yes.
Wow.
And we've even got Mario Odyssey where you can be a hat. Mm-hmm. You can be a hat, Shane.
I heard that Mario Odyssey is cool. I also heard that Mario Kart on Switch is like the best version since the N64.
We wouldn't know. Our girls aren't going to play it.
And they're not going to play it? All
but
right.
I do have Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan. You've seen my office.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's beautiful.
We're mutual friends with Jonathan Dixon, right?
We are.
Yep. So he actually came on the show when the Switch first came out because he's a game developer too. He's an indie game developer. I didn't know if you know that or not.
No, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so he came on. We talked about that, and he brought his Switch in and showed it off. But did you know that the cartridges have a bitterant on them?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I was holding too many things in my hand, and I put one in my mouth to hold it so I could
and you're
switch.
like, yikes.
You immediately regret that.
Yeah. I
wow.
licked one on air, live.
Did you?
So that my audience wouldn't have to see if that was true.
That was
Zach, were you there for that when I licked that thing on air?
I do remember.
That was hideous. What I do for my listeners.
I bet Muffin liked that though.
Yeah. Muffin probably took joy in that. Yeah. That was before the Nastygram started. So I don't know if Muffin was listening then. So as a gamer, would you play a video game version of Call of Cthulhu role-playing game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. I really enjoyed the Sanity's Requiem, and if they ever rebuild it for the Switch or something, I'd totally buy that and play the crap out of it.
It seems like I remember years ago, it was either that game or another game. People thought something was physically wrong with the hardware because there was stuff happening, and then it turned out that the game was trolling them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. All right. We're going to wrap up the news segment. When we come back, we'll have more with Jeremy Morphis. We're going to talk about his fantasy books and how you can get them. Maybe get a little insight on what it's like for him to be a novelist. And we'll throw a couple of quick H.P. Lovecraft trivia notes out there before the break, and then we'll hit a break. So did you know that although now considered one of the greatest, and these are courtesy, there's a website called The Lovecraftsman. Although now considered one of the greatest early American writers of horror, which he called weird fiction, Lovecraft never received his high school diploma. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
He never received, and we were talking earlier, he never called it, I think we were talking about this off air, he never called it the Cthulhu mythos. Right. He called it the Arkham cycle.
Yes.
Right? That was what he referred to it as. And then here's another one here. The statuette for the World Fantasy Award is a bust of Lovecraft in honor of his writing, and the award is informally referred to as a Howard. So, folks, stick around. We'll talk more with Jeremy Morphis about his books, how you can get them. We'll have more Lovecraft trivia and scintillating conversation after the break, right here on Shane Plays, a journey into the things we love.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, welcome back to Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. We're talking with Jeremy Morphis, who's a fantasy author. We're also talking a little bit about Lovecraft today and Cthulhu and all that good stuff. And we're also comparing NFL football teams to WWE, which used to be WWF wrestlers. For instance, the Patriots are the Ric Flair of the NFL. We've established that today. Woo! Woo! So there we go. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair. So who was it that was it? Sam Howard was listening? Sam?
Yes.
Thanks for listening, buddy. So if anybody else is out there listening, feel free to Twitter me or text Amy or Jeremy or call in at 501-823-0965. We appreciate you listening. So I'm going to throw out another Lovecraft trivia piece, and then we're going to talk about your books, Jeremy. So did you know that when he died in 1937, I think he was 49, if I remember right. I could be wrong. Lovecraft didn't actually get his own headstone until 1977 when fans pitched in to buy him one.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yep. And then on October 13th, 1997, so not long after he got 20 years after he got a headstone, pardon me, someone apparently tried to dig up his body, not knowing it wasn't under the headstone. They dug about 3 feet down before giving up for unknown reasons. And then I
just got really tired.
Yeah. So it was you. Okay.
Lower back problems.
Right. The mystery's solved. It's a mystery right up there with DB Cooper jumping out the airplane. Now we know that Jeremy Morphis was the guy that tried to dig up. But for whatever reason, his headstone, he's not buried directly under his headstone. I don't know why. But his body is buried nearby. Okay.
To trick the old ones.
Yes, those tricksy old ones. Okay, so let's go from weird fiction or survival horror or creepy horror or whatever you want to call it. And let's go more over into fantasy. You are a fantasy author.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your books?
Because I'm very shy.
You're very shy? That's why you won't? Okay, I'll tell you. So Jeremy, now what are the names of your books there, Jeremy?
All right, so the first book is called A Resurrection of Thieves.
I like that title.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do too. The title actually came before the book, and so I liked it and started writing with that sort of thing in mind. And then the second book, that's the second release book, is called Bound in Shadows.
Okay.
I'm working on a third one now. It is tentatively called Dog of War, but because the stuff that would have led into the Dog of War to make that title make sense,
right?
I'm not there yet, and in fact, it seems to be further along in the horizon. This book may have a title change.
Oh, you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Do you already have it planned out how many books will be in this story? Or?
No, not really. I mean, I have a lot of ideas, and I've been working in pontificating on this for a long time. One of my really good friends, John Hilkert, fantastic guy, super creative. He and I went to college together, and we skipped so many classes while maintaining an excellent grade point average, let me say, in case any of my stepdaughter or my daughter are listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you got to do the work, okay?
You got to do the work, yeah.
But we would go to McDonald's and enjoy fantastic McGriddles.
Yes.
And we would work on these. Actually, the first story that we wrote, this was a long time ago, it was called Stone Song. And that is the actual first. If I ever become famous or for any reason, that's a little bit of trivia. The first book that was ever written was actually called Stone Song. And these books that I'm talking about now and the ones that we have published are, they predate that one.
Right. So go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the world that these stories populate actually go back even further than that. Because I told you we didn't play D&D. I couldn't afford those big, fancy 20-sided
fancy polyhedral dice.
I know. A 12-sided die?
Yeah, what the heck?
I know. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. No, that's a choking hazard. My parents would never let me have that. But we did, me, my brother Chris, my brother Greg, and our neighbor Tommy Smith, who was one of the most creative people I've ever encountered. Very fortunate to have him in the neighborhood.
Not the same Tommy Smith.
Not the same one.
All right. Because he's creative in his own way too.
He is.
Yes.
He is. But we never sat down and discussed stories or played like role playing games.
Gotcha.
We built our own.
Right.
Because we had the two 12-sided dice, but then eventually the dice went away and we just started telling stories. And so Tommy Smith is the one who lent the palette and the brushes and the paints for this world.
Mm-hmm.
And then John and I came along and we kind of started fleshing it out.
So this world's going all the way back to what? Preteen? Teen?
Yeah, preteen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it goes back a while. I mean, I think you would appreciate the history of it. I don't want to get too much into it just because there's always a part of me that feels like, oh God, you're mouthing about your books again. And,
well, that's what you're here for, though.
I know.
So you have. I will ask this though: is it when most people from a certain generation, my generation, or maybe the generation before as well, when I hear fantasy book, I think epic high fantasy. Mm-hmm. I think Tolkien. I think whatever. What flavor of fantasy is your story? Is your books?
There are certainly elements of the high fantasy, the epic fantasy, right. But I don't really like that. I mean, the Resurrection of Thieves. The main point of the story is this: there's a thief who's part of this thieves guild, and the mm-hmm. thieves guild is getting investigated and punished, and dragged out in the street and murdered,
right,
for stuff that they're not actually doing. They're doing a lot of bad things,
but not what they're getting
blamed
right.
for. So there's something else going on.
It's a frame job.
It is kind of a
frame job. Well,
I
would guess it's a frame job, but I don't know.
Well, yeah. So it's on that. It's a very small scale, right? It's one thief, one thieves guild. And why are you even rooting for these guys? They're thieves. They're, they're not nice people.
Right.
But I don't know. Hopefully,
that can make it for interesting storytelling too. I mean,
I hope so.
Yeah. A lot of the classic pulp heroes or fiction wasn't, the protagonist was not necessarily a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell an interesting story and it doesn't necessarily have to be, a paladin to root for or whatever. So, but speaking of thieves guilds, interesting. I was reading, Gary Gygax, one of the co-creators of Dungeons & Dragons, wrote some fiction, and the title is escaping me. But his character was a thief and was in a thieves guild, and they were, as long as they paid their whatever to the mayor or whatever, mm-hmm. they're okay, and as long as they followed the rules. But there was rivalry between the Thieves Guild and the Beggars Guild, and some overlap on who could pick whose pockets. But anyway, that just made me think about that. Yeah. So
if you like that kind of thing,
yeah.
I'm going to recommend Stephen Bruce.
Okay.
He also writes fantasy, and he has a world called Dragera or something like that.
Okay.
And there are elves, these 7-foot tall creatures that live, thousands of years and have this natural inclination towards magic. And then you have the humans who are just the scum of the earth.
Flipping muggles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except they can learn it and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But anyway, there is an assassin who's part of an assassin's guild, and they've got all these complex rules. They have to integrate into society. They also have to pay the bribes and things like that. And there are rules, who can you assassinate? And,
right. Exactly. Yeah.
But really fascinating. Really.
It's mischief managed.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Murder managed.
Yeah. Murder managed. Yeah. So, well, tell us, I guess give us a little bit more idea of in your fantasy, is there magic?
Yeah, there are several types of magic. All right, so let me back up a long time for this.
Yeah. Okay.
This planet is called Relentia, and it is described as, this is where God tried to divide by zero. So this is a place where there's chaos, right?
Okay.
And so this is the source of chaos. And so there's a branch of magic called sorcery, which is using this essence that we call it mirrant energy in the story, but it's basically chaos. And then you're giving form to it. So that's one type of magic. Okay. But then you've got, there's lots. There are psionics. There are wizardry, which is the art of using your life force.
Okay.
And then shaping it into, charms and things like that. There's witchcraft, which is completely different from those. There's genetic manipulation.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. There's a giant tree, man, and it has a vision of the future, and it thinks, hey, I need to protect these people, and so what can I do to this race to make it more not interesting, but more capable of surviving?
Right.
And sometimes it does really well.
And then sometimes
and sometimes they're inevitable disasters.
Yeah, so it sounds really. So what? Like, let's say that. And first of all, you can get these books on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Right. Search for
and
Jared.
should.
Go ahead.
And should. You should.
You could.
Yes.
Get these books on Amazon, and it is the author is Jeremy Morphis, and it's the Strandian Tales. So what is Strandian? What's the 411 on Strandian, man?
All right, so we have the name of the planet. The name of the planet is Rolentia, and the first series starts on this floating island, which is named Strand. And so,
by the way, I love the cover.
Oh, thank you.
And it shows the floating island.
My wife built that cover from scratch.
I like it. One thing I'm gonna say here, and I was talking yesterday with Mr. Brandon Beam, who worked with you to edit these books, correct?
He and John and Amy. There have been several people. Lee Bailey. I don't want to leave anybody out. I've had a team of very talented, very thorough editors who have turned the mediocre stuff that I would have churned out without them into something that is actually readable. All the good things I attribute to these people. They have done tremendous work. I'm just really blessed. I hate using that word, but really blessed to have them in my life. Okay. And so the books owe quite a bit to them. But yes, Brandon is one of my top editors.
Okay. Well, it's most authors that most books, you're like, wow, this is a great book. It's rarely just one person setting off somewhere and then this just perfectly formed thing shows up, right? There's editors and there's hard decisions that have to be made. But the point that I'm kind of going to here is that both of your books look really good. The Resurrection of Thieves and then also Bound in Shadows. And what I was talking with Brandon about yesterday, we just happened to be talking about it, was, I see a lot of books, fantasy books, whatever, from newer authors that you can get on Amazon or Kindle or whatever. And the presentation is awful. I'm sorry. It just doesn't look good. I'm like, there's nothing here that makes me want to read this book, but the presentation on your books is very good.
Oh, well,
so that's kind of what I was leading to. So if I saw this book, I would assume this is a book that I could go down and get at, the bookstore. Right. So, I mean, it looks good. So anyway,
my wife does good work.
Now, who did Bound in Shadows? Who did that cover?
I am drawing a blank. My wife was going to, but she's enrolled in the master's program at ULR, so she didn't have the time for it. So I used someone else, and
let's see. Would the Amazon page say? If you can send it, I will get it to me after the show, and I'll edit it into the live version. But
her name was Lee something. I'm drawing a blank on her last name, and I feel really bad. Hopefully she's.
So it was a commission.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks really good. So
I had no complaints. She did a fantastic job.
Well, just give me your name after the show, and I'll edit it into the podcast version. So both of them look really good. So this is Shane with a post live show footnote, if you will. The artist who did the Bound in Shadows cover is Lee Pruitt. And as Jeremy says, Lee is super talented. So also he wanted to mention that the books are only $2.99 on Amazon. So they're reasonably priced gamble for someone looking for a good fantasy read. So what are you waiting for? Get on out there and check them Strandian Tales books out. And now, back with the show. Here's the thing. Here's a good question that'll kind of boil this down to the essence of what your book is about, or your book. If I'm looking at two different fantasy books or two different books or whatever, and I'm like, I've got either Bound in Shadows or A Resurrection of Thieves here, or I've got some other book. Why should I read your book? What is it that is going to be unique about your book? What am I going to find there I can't find anywhere else?
Well, that's a good question. So first, my books aren't going to be for everybody.
Okay.
So it could be that you are the type of person that says, "Hey, this isn't my cup of tea."
Right.
In which case, nice talking to you.
Right.
And, and good luck finding something else. There's a lot. We live in a time where there's just a tremendous amount of quality fantasy work out there. It's no longer quite the niche genre that it used to be, where, you had like you were saying earlier, kind of the McDonald's approach.
Right.
And for those of you who aren't in the studio, my lovely wife just wrote a dialogue in big letters and on a piece of paper and slipped it over to me.
So dialogue is one of your strengths? Your wife is saying yes with thumbs up.
Yes.
The lovely Amy here in the studio.
The lovely Amy Cole is saying yes, dialogue is one of my strengths. I go for broke on dialogue. Each of the characters has their own personality, usually modeled off of some person that I've either read or interacted with, or somebody that I just loved and took it and mocked it up. And so each of them are, when I'm writing them, they're my favorite person to write.
Right.
I love the way that they talk. I love the way that they interact. And so that's really good. And also there's humor in it, especially in A Resurrection of Thieves. You're dealing with a thief, and he's also kind of a prankster and kind of a jerk. But you get what I consider at least funny insights into why he's doing the things that he does, the stuff that he says. He's very bantery and ironic. He refers to himself as the Lightbringer, and he does
in an ironic fashion.
He does nothing good on purpose. It is all, any goodness that comes from his actions are actually just byproducts of him doing something
purely unintentional. All right. Let's do this. I'm going to read the sort of editorial write-up on A Resurrection of Thieves, Strandian Tales, Book 1 by Jeremy Morphis. And you can find this on Amazon. And then we'll cut to a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more. And then, we're already, believe it or not, we've got about, less than 10 minutes left. Radio goes quick.
Yes, it does.
All right. So this is A Resurrection of Thieves. Something's rotten in the state of Denmark, or rather in the Thieves Guild on the levitating island of Strand. Specifically, that something is a group of mysterious raiders who seem to be able to appear and vanish at will, who slaughter their victims and leave the innocent Thieves Guild, well, innocent of this anyway, to face the wrath of an incensed city guard who aim to remedy the situation in much the same way that a guillotine remedies. Do you say guillotine or guillotine?
I say guillotine.
Guillotine remedies a headache. This spells trouble for the guild's most notorious thief. I'm going to see if Tython Delrith. Tython Delrith, who now finds his criminal enterprises interrupted by vengeful guardsmen on one hand and brutal killers on the other. Faced with the choice of either surrendering his evil ways or solving the mystery of these murderous raiders, Tython
Bingo.
girds himself for adventure, largely with other people's belongings, and goes to work. All right. He girds his loins with other people's belongings. Can he unmask the real villains before the blade drops on both the Thieves Guild and his own two mortal necks? So that's the blurb. What are you waiting for? Buy it and read it now. From Resurrection of Thieves, the first book in the Strandian Tales from fantasy author Jeremy Morphis. All right, I'm going to give some love to a sponsor. We'll cut to a break, and when we come back, we'll finish up talking with Jeremy and maybe do a little bit more Lovecraft trivia, depending on how time treats us. So some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. That's 501-224-GAME or gamegoblins.com. Or really just head on over to 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis. Check them out. They got amazing inventory, and they have events every day of the week. They got plenty of play space, and they also have a loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. And first-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I was just talking with Jeremy Morphis, our guest today. We've been talking about his fantasy novels, and then also we've been mixing in a little Lovecraft and Cthulhu. And he was actually sharing with me that the Lovecraft influenced your fantasy world. Go ahead, you kind of share that with me real quick again for the benefit of the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just saying that Lovecraft, for those of you who don't know, and you absolutely should know, it's Lovecraft. So get out there, read some books.
H.P. Lovecraft, Cthulhu mythos, all that good stuff.
So Lovecraft has all these old ones and great old ones and different variations of these godlike entities that come to Earth and then and do things. And we have something similar in our world where these ancient things go and try to steal the chaos that they use to build sorcery with, and so there are a lot of Lovecraft influences and references you can find throughout the novels.
Interesting. And the reason we even, because I on your desk you have a little cute plushy kind of Lovecraft looking thing or a Cthulhu. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So your wife Amy was sharing with me during the break that you don't read a lot of fantasy, but ... So why don't you kind of share with that what you were going to say about his books?
Yeah. So the only fantasy novels I think I'd ever read were the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit, and I did enjoy those to some degree, but it never really sparked my desire to pick up anything else fantasy related. Right. But so when he said, "Hey, I'm a writer," when I first met him, I was like, "Oh, what kind of books?" And he said, "Fantasy." I was like, "Oh." So when I'm going to have to pretend to like these books, but no, they really were great. I enjoyed the dialogue the best. It really does lend itself to really quick banter back and forth. I laughed out loud several times during the book, and there are really good relationships. To spoil too much about it, but there's some really good interactivity with the families in the books, and the two main characters, their relationship is actually great. And it's neat to see that spark. I think it really would make a great television show or series, honestly, because the way the writing is, there's not a page or two that go by without really good dialogue.
Excellent. So good dialogue, good plotting, good dialogue, good characters, good relationships, and interesting fantasy world building, it sounds like. So check them out, folks. It's the Strandian Tales by Jeremy Morphis on Amazon. First book is The Resurrection of Thieves, and the second book is Bound in Shadows, and there's more to come. I got to wrap us up. Believe we got about 2 minutes left. Yeah, we're at 2 minutes. So
can I just say real quick?
Yeah, sure, go.
That Typhon Delrith is the Ric Flair of the Thieves Guild.
Woo! Woo! Did you happen to find that, Zach? Did you find the woo? All right, Zach's going to play the woo for us.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Come on, you can do it. Oh, yeah. The Nature Boy Ric Flair. So real quick, and unfortunately it's got to be a super quick answer because we're about to run out of time.
Sure.
I did want to get your favorite Lovecraft story. Mine is The Mountains of Madness, just because it's paced so amazing. And he really wrote the first survival horror story back in 19 whatever. And so many movies, including like John Carpenter's The Thing, have used that kind of pacing.
Yes.
But I love all of his stuff. But if I had to pick one, it'd be that. What's your favorite?
I'm not picking just one. Dagon is probably his most perfect.
Yeah. Which is one of his earlier ones, too.
And it captures the despair so well of his stories. But also the Color Out of Space.
Color Out of Space
is phenomenal.
Right. And got 1 minute left. I've joked with you about this before, Jeremy. It never fails to kill me that Cthulhu's is always presented as this crazy, insane, you can't kill it beast, and then the dude hits it with a boat, and that's how the story. But anyway,
we'll argue about that later.
Yeah, well, I know that there's more to the story, but it's just funny. Okay, I have to end the show on the bad joke of the week, and I picked out Cthulhu or Lovecraft ones in honor of this. You ready? All right, waiter, there's a dead squid in my soup. It's not dead, sir. It's just dreaming. You're supposed to groan. And then the Necrotelonomicon is the book of dead phone numbers. Okay. And on that, we got to wrap. Folks, Jeremy, Amy, thanks for coming on. We'll catch everybody next time on Shane Place.
Hey there, Cthulhu, down there in your sunken city. A billion light years distant, and the stars look very pretty from relay. So close and yet so far away. Yeah. Cthulhu Fatagan, or is that Cthulhu Fatine? I can never quite remember, 'cause I'm not in my right mind since I met you. no one corrupts the way you do. You know it's true.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.